the pictures come out, it no longer looks like it's going to be the right fit, we can always cancel it. But like, let's make sure that we have our spot reserved.
I love that. I think that's really helpful. And you mentioned something there. Apparently, I didn't hit the live button on here. I just
Oh,
realized this is what happens when you run your own tech. So it's one of those days, but that's okay. So what you said, a lot of people don't want to give you the time of day. They don't want to meet with you. They think they know more than
mhm,
you do. And there's a list of questions. We actually went over this today on our role play call. So for the agents that are listening, what I would be looking at is I'd ask these kind of questions to the clients that that you're talking to. And I think it's a no pressure way of telling them, hey, like, you actually need to do this,
mhm,
right? So what do you understand about the current market?
mhm.
Great question, because they could tell you something that's totally factually inaccurate.
Right.
um, Tell me what you think about this one. If I can show you strategies that have helped our clients win competitive offers hundreds of times over the past couple years, would you want to learn about those?
Mhm.
Right? Like, if then, like, you're at, like, it's, hey, I've got a plan here that works. I know
Right.
we've got a whole way that happens. Would it help if I broke down the local market conditions so that you can make a well informed decision when the right opportunity becomes available?
Yeah.
A lot of people don't get, and the market, the segments are so different, right? Like, the first time and the move up buyers, I think they're the ones that are having harder time keeping up than someone in the higher end price points.
I agree
Are
with
you
that.
seeing the same thing?
Yeah.
So that's helpful. And then here's the last one. Just out of curiosity, I don't know why I said it like that. Just out of curiosity, when was the last time you bought a home?
Yeah.
Stacy, who's not on the sheet, she couldn't make it today. She asked me that on the role play call, and I thought that was a great question, because
Mhm.
if it's, hey, it was 20 years ago,
Right. It's going to be different.
for sure. And first of all, the agreement of sale has changed in a lot
Mhm.
of cases. And then, could it be possible that a refresher in the lending and purchase process would help you better navigate your next real estate decision?
Right.
So, I mean, it's because you're telling them, hey, things have changed,
Right.
but you're taking all the pressure out of it, and you're not being a jerk, right? Like, no one wants to be told they're wrong.
Right.
So, this to me is stuff that, if you can implement those lists of questions, that will help people be able to keep up with the market. Because
Right.
you're right, some people are maneuvering ahead of it and getting a house,
Mhm.
and others are just kind of flat-footed and don't know what's going on, and they're constantly losing out on properties.
Right. I mean, like when you've got a hot property that comes up that you know is going to check most of the boxes for your buyer, like I like to, even before going in to see the house, have like a plan in place. Like I've run the comps. I've looked
Mhm.
at where I could kind of anticipate like the numbers falling for this, probably what the seller is looking for. And having that plan in place so that if you do see it and you do like it, getting that offer in right away is crucial. One, you don't know who else is putting something in.
Totally agree.
Two, it shows motivation and excitement. Like you went, you saw the house, like you went, you saw the home,
Mhm.
and here's my offer. I'm not like gonna hem and haw and decide, you know what I mean? And it's obviously it's a huge decision. So I'm not saying just like,
Monster decision.
not just like, oh, just whatever, throw in an offer. But like if it does check the boxes, knowing what to do to get the house and then getting that offer in quickly. I know when I'm on the listing side and there's an agent that contacts me and is like, hey, we just saw it. We're super excited. We're writing an offer. And then they send the offer that day. It's like, okay, they're on board.
Mhm. Well, and it also shows these people want the house,
Yeah.
because there's so many, part of the issue, and this is where buyers can keep up versus not keeping up, is you want to show, hey, I have every intent of closing.
Mhm.
Because there's sometimes, and this has probably happened to you on the listing side, it's definitely happened to me. Hey, we're ready to move ahead, and they tell me all the problems they have with
Right.
the house, which, that's over disclosure. That's a bad move on a buyer agent's part.
Mhm.
And if you want to keep up with the market, the goal is to control the house, right?
Right.
And I think this is how to represent people properly, where if you're telling them how much of a pain in the butt your client is, well, a good listing agent is going to share that with their seller,
Right.
because you got to get these things to closing. I mean,
Yeah.
there's still a good amount of deals that fall apart, and especially in a confusing market like this, where if you look at the data in this Housing Wire article, there's less homes for sale, but it's taking longer for properties to sell. Pricing's up a little bit, but we've also got mortgage rates jumping on. There's a lot of confusing things happening right
Mhm.
now, and that can cause confusion with buyers, which can stop you from getting to the settlement table, which is the only goal here. So if you're doing presenting the offer in the right way and showing, hey, I'm ready to close, I've given you everything you want. You don't give a hard time about like documents and paperwork,
Mhm.
and like, this is just present the offer in the right manner. That's where good coaching from a buyer's agent and someone that really gets it is going to help you get the house that you want, who's asking questions like this and be willing to ask, like, hey, what do you actually understand about the purchase process?
Right.
Because even if people think they know,
Yeah.
they usually don't.
Right.
So with that, so we're seeing that. So I like your yes and no answer because I think it's the people that are open minded to hearing professional advice. They're the ones that are keeping up, and the ones that
Right.
don't, I mean, it's like when your attorney tells you to do something, you don't do it. It usually doesn't work out well.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with that, what we've also seen is that, and this was pretty interesting. So I was reading Lance Lambert's website, and he talked about, and I love what he does here. So he talked about how the 2023 market was the fewest existing home sales since 1995, and he's seeing signs that indicate a mild improvement here. And one of the first signs was that you're seeing, membership in NAR is dropping, right? So that kind of shows that there's probably better agents out there. There's some hobbyists that shouldn't be here. But then additionally, Fannie Mae is predicting 4.46 million homes that sold compared to 3.85 last year. Mortgage Bankers Association is predicting the same thing. And they talk about how new listings, which fell really hard during the mortgage rate shock, it appeared to like that was the bottom. And the Realtor.com number for new listings was 2.8% above January 2023 levels. So that's a good sign because January is usually like a slow starting month, especially in the Northeast. We saw where rates have come down to. And what they went on to talk about is that because housing affordability is now strained, you're seeing some home builders turning to smaller builds, which means more affordable new construction, which I think is a big deal here.
Yeah.
I mean, what you just sold a new construction home.
Yeah.
So what's that experience like for buyers right now? Because like that's one place where there is inventory.
Right.
It's also kind of pricey.
Right. So this is actually interesting. We looked at new construction as well as existing homes.
Okay.
Found a home that they fell in love with. We put an offer in. This was not a new construction, and unfortunately got outbid. Now, in this case, I feel like we were able to look back and say, we did everything we could. We did everything that we could. And sometimes you can't help when somebody else just comes in stronger.
Agreed.
While we were looking at some of the new construction places, it was still at the early stage of that construction process where your time frame until settlement was going to be, quite a few months.
Yeah.
And your anticipated cost was pretty unpredictable because you get your base price, which was already kind of on the upwards end of their budget. And then knowing that you're going to be doing, upgrades and different things, it's kind of hard to know exactly where you're going to fall into place. My clients actually there was one that just like popped up. They went over the weekend and this could not have come together better. Like if we were trying to make this come together, there's no way it would have happened. This particular place was already at the end stage. It was going to be, it was done. And I think that there was some type of incentive from the builder. Like, I don't know if somebody else had backed out of the deal or what, but the deal that they got on this, both with not charging for some of the upgrades that had put into the home and only charging the base price, as well as the interest rate that they were able to give, it was 4.65%.
Yeah. So they should have definitely that's one of those things where you tell them like, hey, like let's just sign this right now. Like don't mess around with this.
Oh yeah.
Let's take the deal.
Yeah, they were so on board. And as they were like telling me some of the, the different pieces, I was just like, I mean, this is incredible. So yeah, that I was so excited for them.
That's an incredible number that they got on that. And that really demonstrates, and I'll get into this article here in a second, but sometimes the best deals are the spec homes because the spec home's already done, right? And there is some pressure for builders to keep their sales pace going. So the bank's going to keep the cash flowing. That's very real. So the spec home usually is one of the better deals out there because you're not picking everything. The people that build from the ground up and pick everything, that's the most expensive option. The sample can be a really good price point as well, although it's expensive because there's usually a lot of upgrades in there. You don't pay the premium for those upgrades. And so that's really smart. But that rate incentive, I mean, you can't beat that.
It was unbelievable because I mean, when we were looking at, they have great credit. They are very well qualified, but just the way it was kind of coming into play with the home that we had previously put an offer in on, I mean, it was significantly higher than that. So
Hmm.
the fact that they were able to secure that low rate combined with the home already being completed, not having to make all of those decisions and um, feel that I want to say pressure, but like as you're doing new construction, like there are all these different upgrade options and they're exciting and you want to go with them. And
Hmm.
you're like, okay. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing the bill just tick up,
Yeah,
tick up,
it's
tick up.
$100,000 more all of a sudden when you're
Right.
buying it, and a lot of times you got to write a check for those
Hmm.
and pay up front because they're customizing it
Yep.
for you. So that's really smart. That's great representation on your part. I'm curious what you think about this, Sarah. So D.R. Horton, they apparently reduced their average square foot by 3%, which doesn't sound like a lot, but I mean they're starting to build smaller homes, and they're the nation's largest publicly traded home builder. And they told their investors they expect continued gradual moves down from this mixed shift perspective in terms of average square footage. So it sounds like they're going to be building smaller and smaller homes. And if you look at there's a company called Parco Labs, and they put together an analysis here. I'll see if Nick can post this after we get done. So in 2023, the median square footage of existing single family home sales was 1,607 square feet, and for new construction, that number was 2,036 square feet. So that's pretty fascinating. But if you look at just back in 2013 or 2014, that number was closer to 2,400. So they've effectively been reducing the size of these properties more and more. I'd imagine one is to keep costs down,
Hmm.
but this is a trend that we're seeing across the board. And then you see deals like this that they're cutting, right? So they lost money on that.
Yeah.
I mean, their mortgage company lost money on a 4.625 interest rate. I don't. There's no other way to explain it, and they're also losing money on the upgrades. So I think builders have to because new construction is so pricey. This is an interesting trend to keep watching here, and that's a really great observation. I mean, I'm shocked to hear that you're. I mean that's going on. There's also another community. Tell me what you think about this. It's by Lennar in San Antonio, and the size of the homes range from 350 to 660 square feet, price from 135 to 171.
Wow. Tiny home.
That's very tiny home. I mean, I don't. It's so. I mean, you're starting to see this, which I think is a smart move by builders because they'll be able to sell those pretty quickly.
Right.
People are still going to want to buy new homes, and if that trend continues, I think it's a smart move for builders. Now, the challenge is you got to deal with like zoning laws and like what
Right.
minimum lot sizes. Texas doesn't have a lot of zoning laws.
Yeah.
It's not like up here where Pennsylvania is like. I mean, John, you probably know this as well as anybody. Like Pennsylvania's got very difficult zoning laws, so. We got John Pike here from our team as well. Very excited to have John on. We're going to break down everything he's doing in the third segment here. So, do you think this trend continues, right? Because you were talking about buyers outmaneuvering the market.
Mhm.
Do you think builders are going to keep building more affordable property? I think they should. I think it's
I
a
think
good
they
business
should.
move. They can make, obviously, it's a math equation
Right.
because the average new construction sale price right now in our marketplace in the suburbs is anywhere from 800 to 1.2 million.
Right. Base.
Base. Yes.
I'm just trying to imagine a 350 square foot house.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they probably everything is very thoughtfully put in there. There's probably like things that get like pushed away for maybe your I guess it wouldn't be like a washer and dryer. It makes me think of the have you ever seen those like ridiculous like RVs
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
they like pack
Yes.
like it's probably a space like that where stuff kind of expands and
Correct.
comes back in
Yep.
and you just like make very good use of the space, which also makes me think I'm probably making terrible use of a lot of the space in my house because it's like wild that they can do that. But
Uh,
yeah, that would be smart. Getting a price, new construction, bringing inventory into the market at a price that people can afford is very smart.
Well, it's gonna help the affordability issues
Right.
that are there. It's gonna create more inventory because anything, and I mean, you look at anything priced like 3, 4, 500,000, it goes right away right now. I mean, we're talking about 17 offers on a property in Delaware County that I didn't, I knew we had people bidding on it, but that was unsolicited that came through today. So, buyers keeping up. I think the lesson here, and we're going to take a quick break, is if you get educated, right, you actually listen to an agent who knows what they're doing, and you find an agent who knows what they're doing, which is not an easy thing, right? I mean, there's a lot of bad agents out there, and if you're coachable as a buyer and you're open minded, those are the people that can navigate this market. The other folks are going to be the ones that really have a challenge.
Right.
And we deal with those people too. They kind of know everything. They tell you, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. It's tough, but they're the ones out there still looking for homes.
And yeah, and they're typically the ones that need to lose several homes
Hmm.
because they don't want to take the advice. So, um, yeah, it is so great when you work with people that are open minded, take the advice, and you're able to secure them the house.
Well said. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to break down all the real estate Super Bowl ads, including some Taylor Swift advice from Gary Vaynerchuk of all people. We'll talk about that next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. All right, all right. Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Time, and he's John Pike. We all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at Remax Main Line, the number one Remax team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we are live on YouTube. So if you get some value out of this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with one of these two people from our amazing team, just click on the link in the comments to talk about your real estate needs. So Super Bowl was this weekend, right? And I think last year, didn't they have like the Barbie Dreamhouse commercial with Rocket Mortgage? That was
Yeah,
the
was that last year?
Yeah, that was last year. I thought it was a horrible, misleading commercial because they were talking about, cash offers and all this stuff that I think was going to confuse a lot of people. This year, there were some real estate commercials. Now, a little different. CoStar, who owns Homes.com, had 4 commercials. That's a big budget.
Yeah.
There's also something you guys probably don't know. They sent out marketing packages to a lot of. We have one sitting in our break room right now. If anyone saw this, so it's a Homes.com football jersey was in there.
Really?
There was cracker, all sorts of like charcuterie, all sorts of things, and they sent this out to thousands of teams around the country. So it wasn't just the Super Bowl. I mean, that stuff's expensive. I mean,
Right.
so they really went all in on this Super Bowl ad, and Zillow and Realtor.com, they sat out and they had 4 commercials on here. So I don't know if you guys got a chance to watch these. I know John, you didn't, so I'll explain it to him. The first one was the extra Terrantrials. I couldn't really pronounce it. It had Jeff Goldblum. It was on
Extra torrentials.
yes, I guess that's
Right?
good enough. I don't know.
I
That
don't
looks
know.
close. So And that was from apartments.com, which is owned by CoStar and homes.com. And they were basically translating for aliens seeking rentals. I thought that was very clever. What'd you think about that one, Sarah?
I liked it because I also I like Jeff Goldblum.
Yes.
And I like that it was kind of like a little bit of a take there on well, one, I mean, he's always doing the apartments.com.
Mhm.
And like I kind of like his voice, and I kind of
Yeah.
like that he's like been the spokesperson for them for so long. And
Mhm.
then, a little bit of Independence Day in there.
Yes, that was
Love
good.
that. So I liked it.
But it's stressful looking for apartments, so I think
Yeah.
they do have a decent service for sure. I mean, Jeff Goldblum, he's very iconic. My kid has started watching Jurassic Park, and he's in those movies, so that was. I like Jeff Goldblum. I think those are good commercials. Those aren't the ones I wanted to focus on, so we're
Right.
kind of that one was okay. So the next one is had Dan Levy and Heidi Gardner. So and so Dan Levy, he was. Do you remember that Saturday Night Live skit about Zillow a couple years ago?
Yeah.
He was in that skit. So this
Mhm.
was, I thought, a very smart move for CoStar and Homes.com to get the same person who was in the Zillow skit
Yeah.
to be in their commercial during the Super Bowl. So they're pitching this new version of Homes.com to a boardroom of skeptics. And then they have like a helicopter scene, a surprise drop in by Lil Wayne. I like that. I thought that was kind of fun. But then there was a 50-foot champagne bottle flown in um, by his helicopter for a toast. And then he ends the spot by introducing the brand's slogan, "We've done your homework." And then they had Jeff Goldblum, who was actually in that commercial, which I thought was pretty cool. So, what did you think about that commercial?
So I love Dan Levy, so I liked it. I mean, I will watch Schitt's Creek over and over again. I just like love him. So, I like them.
I mean, I do think it's a smart move to get these celebrity endorsements because, I mean, I've seen Zillow commercials. They never do that stuff, right?
Right.
I mean, Realtor.com, they had, what's her name? Elizabeth Banks. She was in those
Okay.
Realtor.com commercials for a while. I thought that was pretty smart. They obviously sat out this year, but I love that he was in the Zillow skit. I think that is like these guys don't like each other, right? I
Right.
mean, the CEO of CoStar is out to get Zillow, so I thought that was kind of like one of those like slaps in the face with a glove or like the throwdown, right? I
Right.
thought that was pretty smart. So I thought that was a pretty good commercial. Then they had another one where they went over how far the platform was willing to go to get local intel, and they had Luke and Marcy, who is Dan Levy and Heidi Gardner, the from SNL. So again, smart move there. They went to like the hair salon to get all the intel about the neighborhood,
Mhm.
which is very real, by the way. I mean,
Yeah.
the hairdressers, they know everything. And what did you think about that one? I mean, they were really kind of jumping in. I mean, it seemed like they were really trying to show they have a lot of good local data here.
Yeah. I mean, I think they did it in like a comical way, but where it did kind of get the point across and then hit that like new slogan that they're going with for "We did the homework."
Mhm.
Because even if you live in like the general area, like different pockets of different areas can
Yeah.
be so different. And like it is hard to have like all of that insider knowledge. So I thought they made a good point.
Yeah, I agree with that. And also, too, you see a lot of times, like on these portal sites, because these are all portals, right? Homes.com, Realtor.com, and Zillow. You'll see like incorrect tax information. You see the
Mhm.
wrong school districts on there. What's your experience been? So, John, you've closed a lot of folks from our partnership with Zillow. Do you get a lot of like, hey, is this and this? Like, do they have a lot of questions when they see the home there? You have to correct them, or tell us more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You really got to go into the public records to find out exactly what the taxes are. You got to verify everything. You can't just go off of what excuse me, what Zillow or Realtor.com says. And it's a disservice if you don't do that for your client to begin with.
So, a more accurate portal could help the consumer experience. I think that's kind of what they're trying to show here because they're out to beat Zillow and I mean Realtor.com is definitely lagging behind Zillow right now. So the third one here, and this is a heck of a budget. I mean, they had all four of these commercials. I can't get over this. So they had their Levy appeared on the football field in a mascot outfit while Gardner sat in the stands, each working to get insider information on the local school system. Very taboo topic. What'd you think about that one, Sarah?
Yeah, I thought it was funny, just again them being comical and trying to get insider info there. They're doing that whole like pep talk there before the big play, and he's asking about, some classroom stuff, and they're like, get out of here. But yeah, I thought it kind of like drove the point home.
So these ads I think were all pretty clever. I thought they were well thought out. I mean, the amount of money they're spending on these things, I don't know what the average Super Bowl commercial cost. It had to be a lot. I didn't do the research. Do you feel like this broaden your awareness of homes.com? Like, because that's obviously the goal, is to be like top of mind there, because Zillow has become like a verb, a noun. Like, it's like more than a company. What's your reaction about homes.com now versus before the Super Bowl?
Like, for me, I don't know that it changed anything, but for people that are watching and people that are thinking about doing real estate transactions in the upcoming future here, that maybe did kind of have them go in, download an app, or put it top of mind for them.
So we saw some homes.com leads inbound, right? That was the interesting thing. Like, this was like right during the Super Bowl and afterwards. I think there was one that came in last night, and they're like direct call-ins, which is pretty interesting. It's clear to me they were trying to, everything was targeted at what do we do better than Zillow, right? Mm-hmm. The local information on Zillow is a problem. I mean, I don't look at homes, I'm like, this isn't in this school district. Right. And they estimate taxes all the time that are wildly incorrect. And especially look at like some of our towns around here. Like, let's take a good example is Newtown Square. It's in like 4 different school districts. That's going to change all the time, right? So I thought that was pretty insightful. I do like having the local information there. I mean, we'll see what happens. I mean, this was a big statement from homes.com. I can't believe they sent all those boxes out to everybody too. I mean, I was like, great. I just put it in the break room for everybody. I'm like, I don't need to eat this food. I mean, am I going to put this thing on my dog, like this homes.com football jersey? Would you guys wear a homes.com football jersey?
What color was it?
It was orange.
I'll take it.
You're a Clemson fan, so that might be why. I can. John's a no. Sarah's a yes. I also have an affinity for orange going to Syracuse, so I get you on that. But Syracuse football is not as good as Clemson. All right, so I thought this was successful. Now, what I want to get to next here is there was also a lot of talk about Taylor Swift, right? And one of the things I found fascinating, our friends at Now Bam, they did an article about 5 things real estate agents can learn from Taylor Swift marketing, which we'll go over in a second. But what I want to talk about first is what Gary Vaynerchuk said about Taylor Swift, where if you look at, like, you follow her, are you a Swiftie? Okay. So I really could care less. John, Swiftie?
No, sir.
John's not a Swiftie. I would not have bet on that. So I'm kidding. So what's like your observation about her career? Like, because Gary Vaynerchuk's got a very interesting take on this, but you listen to her, you seem like you're a fan.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not like a diehard fan, but I do like her. I've liked watching her career progress over, the last 10, 15 years more. And I think she's a hard worker and kind of just, I don't know. I feel like she puts a lot into her music, and I know where you're going with the Gary V thing, which I feel like her stuff pops up on my Instagram all the time, probably because I've like clicked on, like, it didn't used to, but I've like clicked on it, and then now it's like always showing up. But she does like show up to, people will invite her to things, like everyday people will invite her to stuff, and she'll show up and go to it. And it's like, that makes somebody's day, week, month, year, you know what I mean? Like, there was one that I was watching a while ago. There was a World War II vet who was like in his 90s, and she showed up to like his birthday party. And these people, they invite her to things, and they're like, there's no way that she's coming.
She's never going to come.
Shows up, and that's like super cool.
Well, and yeah, I think the thing about this is, I mean, someone like that, they've got, I mean, all kidding aside, I mean, they're talking about like NFL players, and I know you're a football fan, right? Like, I love watching the NFL. She dwarfs the NFL. Like, it's not even close. And you can't say that about a lot of people. And I'm talking about like the entire league, right? Yeah. So that's what this whole phenomenon's been about. And what Gary Vaynerchuk said, who is, I mean, he's someone I get excited for because I'm a business geek, but like, most people don't even know who Gary Vaynerchuk is, right? And the thing she does amplifies her career so much, because she's going to sing at like kids' birthday parties, or going to see World War II vets. There was an Eagles cornerback, I think it was like a backup. He went to a father-daughter dance with someone who lost her grandfather and her father in the past like 6 months locally, and they went and asked him, and he just, like, that stuff changes people's lives for sure. And she does this so regularly. It's a horrible use of her time. There's a bad ROI there, right? I mean, you think about highest and best use of time. She doesn't make a lot of money doing this stuff, but what it does is
Sorry, I got so much money.
it amplifies her brand.
Yeah,
So
the marketing behind
yes.
it is
Yeah.
genius.
Well, and what it does is it shows that she actually cares about the people that support her. Because
Yeah.
I mean, if when that concert was here last over the summer, I don't even remember.
Yeah.
It was insane to me the amount of people that were going to that, waiting for it, like spending thousands of dollars. And they went like all 3 nights, and it's the same concert every night. It's not like you go to a I better wash my hand here. It's not like you go to another band, right? Like I've seen Pearl Jam a lot. It's a different concert every time, right? That's not, it's literally the same thing, and people are going every single night. And as much as people, I think they love to hate her because I think she's all over the place. I think there's, it's one of those. It's kind of like being the villain because you're so successful.
Mhm.
It's amplified her brand so much by being a real person and showing that she cares about her fans. I think that's something that a lot of real estate agents can learn from. When you care about your clients the same way, right?
Yeah.
You go like we did pop buys, right? The reaction from the pop buys was unbelievable. And we're dropping off 6 packs of beer to people and just saying, hey, enjoy the Super Bowl Sunday. Like that is such a great way to market yourself when you're making a connection with somebody and there's some sort of value there. It's emotional value, right? Because you're showing people you care about them.
Right.
Let's talk about this article real quick, and then we're going to take a quick break, and then we're going to talk about John Pike, who's been rocking. What'd you sell, like 4 homes in the past like week and a half or something?
Yeah.
Unbelievable numbers. So I can't wait to unpack that. That is tremendous. So Lindsay Joe, who I know from BAM, she put together an article about the things real estate agents can learn from Taylor Swift's marketing. And I think that she capitalized on a moment. I think was the first one. When and I don't even think it's the moment at the Grammys. I think it's the moment that she's been at the Super Bowl and at these games because it opened her up to a whole new fan base and vice versa. And they talked about collaborations to increase reach. That's exactly what we're talking about here. But she also works with a lot of different artists and is open to collaborating with people. Here's one. She doesn't take herself too seriously. So when you hear that, Sarah and John, what do you think about that? Because I think there's a lot of real estate agents that take themselves, I would argue, way too seriously.
Mhm.
I don't think any of us do because I know you
Right,
guys, but
right.
it's
Yeah, I mean, I think it shows like the humanness and the ability to just like connect, which is what you want in somebody that you're doing business with, or not doesn't even have to be real estate, but anybody you're working with, like you want them to be a human,
Yes. Yeah, you want to be able to translate with them somehow.
right?
Yeah.
And to be able to like joke around because sometimes in like there can be very high stress
very high stress.
situations
Yes.
that come up in real estate deals. And if you are able to form a relationship with the agent on the other side beyond just like, there's a problem, fix it, or whatever, and you're able to like have a little bit of like banter
Mhm.
and like joking and like, oh, well, here we go, like,
Mhm.
and be able to like inject some like, just like, hey, we're both people here into it and not just like,
Yeah.
"Ah."
Yeah.
It makes you a lot more likely to even like want to pick up the phone when they're calling, which I mean, obviously you have to do anyway, but
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it doesn't, it gets some of that dread out of it.
Yeah,
Just
it
being able
doesn't
to
feel like
connect.
a chore.
Right, right.
If you actually want to talk to that person.
Right. Or if you have bad news, or
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be like devastatingly bad news, but just like when there's some like update that you have to give and be able to like get on the phone and not have that like, oh my God, ugh, I have to call them right now,
Yeah.
like it just makes everything better.
I tend to agree with that because these are moving is one of the top 3 most stressful things that people go through, and if you got an agent that's just like stressing you out, like
Right.
you want to be like calm in these situations. I think the same trade is a good attorney because
Mhm.
when you're getting sued, which has happened to me, and and you're like, I can't believe this is happening. What a joke! And you're like, it makes it a lot easier when you're dealing with this stuff. So I think that's pretty helpful. The same thing with a lot of professionals. So I thought you have to really kind of get the moment in a lot of cases because
Yeah.
sometimes like what can go wrong. Like think about the worst thing that's happened in a real estate transaction to the two of you guys. Can you even fathom that was actually like something that you had to like deal with? I mean, it's insane what goes on. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. So I thought that was great advice. The other one, and then we'll take a break, is that um, I don't like this term, but I'll explain it. Is that Lindsay feels like she's finding her voice But really being more outspoken about like her values and beliefs, which I'm a big believer in. How does that apply to each of your businesses here? Because I think that's I think that's really important to be able to tell people what you believe in and how you treat your clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think that also kind of for her probably comes down to like some confidence. Um, that like she's at a point where she feels as though she can be open and honest about these different things. And I think that confidence goes a really long way in real estate. And being able to like speak up and say like, well, this is, if this happens, and da, 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 and also to be able to assure your clients that if something does come up, because things do happen in these deals, we will come up with solutions and be confident that you can get it to the settlement table.
Yeah. And I kind of feel like you can almost trust that your kids are listening to wholesome music when they're listening to Taylor Swift. She's built that reputation. And I kind of feel like you need trust as a real estate agent, and trust is earned, not just given. So every step of the way, when you're dealing with your client, you have to show them that you are trustworthy. But then again, they have to show that you can trust them and what they're telling you is the truth, and that they're actually serious about their transaction.
Right.
That is that really just like kind of hit me in a different way, John. Because when you think about that, like my kids are getting a little older. I know Maddie's pretty young, your daughter, right? But I mean, you got older kids. And I'm watching this show with my son right now, and there's some like stuff that like he's 11, probably shouldn't be watching, but like luckily like I'm there with him, and it's like a comic book show, right? It's on Netflix. And I'm just like, I'm like, all right, buddy, you got any questions about this? And and I'm like, oh boy, what's going on here? And I think you don't realize what your kids are exposed to. And my daughters, they love music, right? They listen to music all the time. So if they're listening, I don't have to worry about that. I never even thought of that, but it's like I remember some of the music coming out when I was like younger. I mean, it was, it was, I mean, it was, a lot of like rap music and stuff. And I'm like, oh, what's this, mom and dad? And they're, when I'm that's a great point. I think it is wholesome. And it's also, I think, very real. Like there's vulnerability there and adult issues, but it's not exposing them to anything they probably shouldn't be learning about at that age. Great point. Love that. So little different segment here. I like the Taylor Swift stuff better than the Homes.com stuff, for the record. I thought that was much more interesting. So we're going to take a quick break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk all about John Pike. This guy has been kicking butt in the real estate market. 4 sales in like 10 days or something bananas here. We're going to break it all down next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. All right, all right. We are back on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon. He's John Pike. Special guest here, killer member of our team. John, where can people get in touch with you? What's the best way for people to reach out to you? We're going to talk a lot about your business here. Is it on social? Do you want them to john.pike.355 on Instagram? Is that a good spot?
That's a good spot. You can get me there. You can get me on my cell phone, 610-717-6084.
Bold move, giving out your cell phone on the radio. I like it.
It's nothing to be worried about. So,
John, you're great. So we all work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the #1 RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018, and we are streaming live on YouTube. So if you like what you hear and you want to schedule a time to talk to John, click on the link in the comments on the video. Make sure to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications. So, John, you are one of the hardest working people I know, and I don't say that lightly. I think I got that from the first time I met with you. My dad said that when he went to sign the RE/MAX contract. I thought that was very cool. Brian, our sales manager, said it. So where do you draw that from? Because I think a lot of people struggle to, and you've told me this, like accountability is easy for you. And
so ever since I was 18, I was involved with the trades prior to real estate. When you're doing electrical, plumbing, general contracting, when you go to a project, sometimes those projects you're there at that project until that project is done that day. So I'm very used to working 10, 11, 12, sometimes 16 hours a day. I just kind of carried that over into real estate. I remember, I think it was a video I saw of you saying that the data supported that real estate agents on average only work from 30 to 35 hours a day, or a week rather. That kind of blew me away. I couldn't imagine sitting still for that long, but 20 some odd years of just working as hard as you can and lifting tools and constantly moving. It's hard to just sit still. So I kind of just make sure that I'm scheduling my days out where I'm time blocking.
Love that.
Yep.
Speaking my language here.
Time blocking to make sure I am meeting all my goals that I set up for myself that day, whether it's answering the emails, making the phone calls, going to showings, having meetings with clients, whatever has to get done. I don't like to not feel productive. So if I'm not working at least 8 hours in that day doing one of those things, then I kind of wake up the next morning. I don't feel as good about myself as I should.
I mean, talk about internal accountability. I mean, that's amazing. I also think the trades are really hard. Like, have you ever done trade work, Sarah? No. I think I would die. I when I was young, my dad made me go down and do landscaping work in Mount Airy, and it was like I hated it every day. But it's hard to do, right? And I think it's a big thing you got to be aware of. But that teaches you such discipline, and that's why I think a lot of agents get lost. Is they don't have like that consistency. They don't know what they're doing every day. I mean, do you find that easier to adapt to? That you got a plan, you got a routine, you know what your objectives are?
So it's a lot easier now. When I first came over, it was kind of like apples and oranges. You're not getting to a job site, setting up your job site, working at point A, point B, point C to get the project done. It's a little bit different now, where it's you have to drive yourself to do these things because you don't have a client or a boss telling you, hey, this has to get done by this time. However, when you look at your career and you take yourself seriously, you know that everything kind of revolves around what you're doing with real estate. So you're only going to go into it, or you're only going to get out of it what you put into it. And I found that the harder I apply myself, the more I make sure I'm meeting my goals and staying disciplined, the better off I'm actually being here with this new career.
Love it. All right. So that's, I mean, and then that just, I think that it does take time. I mean, Sarah, you've probably been through this too, where I think it does take time to kind of develop that. So you've got what I think is one of the hidden sort of assets that are available, which is your contracting background, because a lot of people that's hard to learn. Like, I mean, did you have a hard time like figuring out like what's going on in the house, like the first time you went in there, Sarah, just to give some perspective, because your background is not construction.
Right. Yeah, I did. And I sometimes still do. Like, I often have to like reach out afterwards to, someone to be like, hey, what do you think of this issue or that issue? And it would be so helpful to, while you're out in a home, be able to identify different things. Or also, I feel like frequently there'll be something like on a wall, like a crack or something like that. And you know, to a buyer, they're like, oh my gosh, the house is going to fall down. And to be able to confidently know, like, no, because it's this way or this way, it just means this. And that's a patch job. Or sometimes there's things that look minor that actually are major. So being able to confidently identify those things on the spot would be very helpful.
Yeah.
So you've been doing some YouTube videos about that stuff. So explain how that's been helping your clients, because a lot of people, they don't know anything about houses. I mean, that's just the reality.
Well, especially since I mean, you're going to know more about this than I am, but since the pandemic, it's been very competitive with going in with no inspections, or even if you're doing an inspection, you're pulling yourself out of a market where you could be looking for another house that might be better fit for yourself. Just going over the basics with, you know, home ownership or buying a home, just saying, hey, this might be a concern, that might be a concern, or if you already own a house, just kind of trying to help those people out to make sure that their investment is protected, and making sure that they know that, okay, what's a major issue, what's not a major issue, what could be a costly fix, what might be a minor fix. It just helps some people out with what their decision is going to be ultimately at the end of the day.
I mean, that's such an asset for today's buyers, because there's so many competitive situations. And if you can, hey, I actually know what I'm talking about here. Because most agents, I mean, they learn over time, but we never did the job, right? You've done the job, you've done the work. So it's, and I think that that's a huge asset. So how do you explain that to clients, that that's a reason they should hire you? Because to me, like, that, you've got the professional side. We've worked on that. We've developed you there, but you got that contracting background that some agents, like, I can never do that. I don't care how long I've been doing this. I mean, you're probably in the same boat. The look on your face says it all, Sarah. So, well, how do you communicate that to people? Because I think that's something I'd want, especially in today's climate.
So the easiest way to communicate that is through the showings or walkthrough with the client. As soon as you walk into a house, I let them know, hey, listen, I do have some background in construction. Would you rather me walk around with you and show you some concerns that I might have, or do you just want to do your own thing and walk around yourself? 9 times out of 10, it's always, hey, please, walk around with us. Let us know what you think about this property here. In which case, we're able to go room by room, and I can show them concerns I might have, show them the age of the heater, tell them how to get that without having to hire a home inspector or an HVAC guy to come out and look at the property and pull yourself out of the market for any amount of time, which could be detrimental, especially in spring markets, right?
Yeah.
So after, like, the first or second walkthrough, the feedback I get is great. Then next thing you know, I'm getting recommendations to, hey, my friend is looking for a house as well.
Unbelievable.
Working with them. So it's been very, very lucky that I got into this market when I did.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're delivering value service, and value is what people want today. They're so sick of hearing, hey, are you ready to buy or sell? It's, hey, here's how I can help you. So you want to follow John, you can get him at john.pike.355 on Instagram. He gave out his cell number. We're getting played out here. You want to follow Sarah? She's at Ty_Ty Time on Instagram. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. Thanks for tuning in this week. That's a wrap on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.